Thank you everyone for coming today. And I hope everyone can see my screen. And the opportunity today is to really connect and share with Indigenous vendors. Some of these are vendors of ours, some of them may not be vendors of ours. And when I say ours, I mean RP1 BGIS. On the phone today, we have more than just RP1, we have representation from across the contracts at BGIS. So we have P3, we have Rob from North Bay, who has been instrumental in hiring our Indigenous interns out of the North Bay Friendship Center. So we have great representation from the company. And the goal today is really to get to know the Indigenous vendors, their journey, and maybe we could learn something from them as we go through our procurement journeys. All of them are different for each different contract, but we want to be more aware. We want to learn what the challenges are so that we can support these different vendors. And we invited Teahorse because Denise and Marc, I love your tea, by the way. So we thought we would wrap up with the Teahorse company. And Denise is Vanessa's sister, and you do look alike, Vanessa. And let's just get to hear your side of the story. What we found is with our Indigenous engagement, is so important for us to understand the history, understand Indigenous journeys, face some truths, maybe learn a little bit more so that we can improve our engagement. So this is really around that. So I wanted to start off by reading the land acknowledgement for Toronto, which is my home office. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse nations, Inuit and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. And I might be having internet problems. I've done everything with IT to fix this, but I hope that everybody could hear that as well. So before we start with the introduction of the different vendors, I wanted to just highlight that we are hiring Indigenous interns. We have 3 categories of interns. We're looking for technicians. We are looking for Indigenous engagement interns, which is mostly communications person, as well as project administrators. If anyone needs to send a resume of an Indigenous person that you know that is looking for work, student, that could be a student of any age, we're looking from high school and above. So even if they've left high school, they haven't started a post-secondary education, they can apply. If they're not sure what to do, just let them contact me directly. So if you know anyone looking for work, it can be remote work, it could be on-site work as well. So again, please, highlight this with anybody that you may know. And now we'll start off. We have Luke Antonia from PLA. He's going to start off today. And we're going to go to Stephen, who is from Esupply. And then we're going to wrap up with Teahorse with Denise Atkinson and Marc Bohemier. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So at this point, I'm going to present Luke's presentation. So just give me a chance to find his presentation. So Luke, if you want to start, that's great.
I just sent you a very recent one also, Julie. You can go with that one. Yeah, so okay, I'll start. So thanks a lot for having me today. I worked a lot with BGIS in the past, and I had great experiences across the board in all the projects. So I'm excited to be sharing something from a different perspective today with my Aboriginal business. So PLA is owned by myself. We're 100% Aboriginal owned business, and we have a long-standing relationship with Canadian Council for Aboriginal Businesses out of Canada. I've personally been working in construction management for about 10 years now in Ontario, now at the age of 32. With the experience and clientele resources I built over this period of work. In the last 3 years, I created my Aboriginal business called PLA, focusing on construction services throughout Ontario, and currently right now focusing in Northern Ontario. So we operate out of Sudbury, Ontario. We're currently focusing, like I said, in Northern Ontario right now. I operate, when we do work for anyone, we operate in a joint venture called PLA, Joint Venture Prosperity Company Limited. I've been working with Prosperity, and some of you might be familiar with them also, as we have done quite a bit of work with BGIS. I've been working alongside them for 8 years. We had lots of growth together, and it was an easy transition of resources and capacity to allow me to execute PLA kind of to a full capacity right off the bat, able to take on $10 million jobs, whether it be by GC, design, build, or construction management. So our primary services and who we offer our services to through PLA is First Nation communities, the federal government and provincial government, and businesses throughout Canada. I just wanted to give you a little more information about the actual services we offer. So we provide construction services by way of general contracting, construction management, and design build. So we complete a large range of construction services in-house by our unionized carpenters. So they do concrete foundations, specialty concrete work, steel studs, wood framing, drywall and acoustics, and kind of anything associated with carpentry work. So wash and partitions, really anything you can think of that trade. So we also have many strong working relationships around Ontario with architectural, structural, mechanical, electrical, civil consultants around the area. And in addition, subcontractors throughout Ontario and suppliers, Canada-wide and obviously into the States too. So we specialize working alongside our clients from the start of the project, as we would and as we do with First Nation communities. So we typically start from ground zero, project planning, in-house conceptual designs. We bring that up to a level where we can use that for consulting RFPs, and moving forward from there, full project execution with full procurement for sub-trades and what other components we have within this project. So we understand that many companies and government departments right now are required to procure projects by way of design, bid, build, or general contracting, which we're aware of. So we have also been doing, bidding on jobs through PSAB, PSIB, as I think they're now referred to. So we've bidding on them. We've been landing the jobs, I guess you can say, and doing them and executing them. So we have some projects underway right now, and we've completed about 3 or 4 within the past year. So right now, PLA, what we're really trying to do is push construction management into First Nation communities, because we believe there's a really big benefit for it outside of the traditional way that construction is being done within First Nation communities, and that being general contracting. So they hire an architect, they do design, put it out for public tender, and then complete the project. So I really believe, and I think a lot of us believe, that they're missing some of the key notes here about actually hiring a main contractor, which is an Aboriginal business, supplies, subcontractors, and actually reinforcing hiring from the community. It's not being done. And even if there's not community members that have the skilled trade, it's important to start onboarding them for apprenticeships and at least labor, so they understand the importance of these jobs.
Just to jump in, sorry, Luke. Julie, do you mind putting the presentation on full screen? It's stuck in the draft mode and we're not seeing the screen very well.
Okay, thanks. I thought I had done that, but let me reshare. Thank you.
So I'll just continue on, just to finish up about construction management and why I personally believe it's very important to use in First Nation communities, and in addition with government project management providers moving forward. So it permits businesses like myself to work alongside First Nation communities on the same side of the table, and take away us sitting on either side of the table when an additional consultants on board for the projects. It also allows us to use procurement methods to actually bring in Aboriginal subtrades, design services, architects, suppliers across the board. So we can't do that right now with public procurement and general contracting. It's very difficult due to all the jobs being awarded based on low dollar value. So to get away from that, construction management is an extremely good option to use. In addition, CM's open book. So if you're familiar with the concept, it's based on a percentage fee, and everything that we bill is open book to the owners. So that's essentially the transparency it provides everyone, and especially for billing and reporting it. It makes it very simple. The other addition here, like I said previously, is being able to hire actual people within the community by offering apprenticeships, or at least promoting it, whether it's just for labor for certain subtrades such as electrical, mechanical, concrete finishing, what have you. But it does provide, you know what I mean, some capacity to the people in the reserve, not only the actual, end result of the project, and obviously, the gas that's purchased on, gas purchased, whatever else commodities from the stores, right? Just to go over some of the projects we did in the last year, we have been doing a lot of work with Wanapate First Nation. They've been an excellent client. It took me just about a year to have them on board the CM that I've been proposing. It went extremely well. So we did do 3 projects with them last year. So we did a large building addition and a daycare fit up. We did one of their safe houses that's located in the center of their community. We did a large fit up and renovation for them. In addition, right now we're doing a community-wide access control system, so a full swipe card system for all their owned buildings that they actually rent out or use as offices, and rekeying the entire community. So it's quite a large undertaking, and it's going well, besides the fact that procuring and getting anything right now is next to impossible. So just to finish off, I just want to talk about some challenges we faced, because I know that was part of your discussion when we began. So First Nation communities to begin with, because that is my primary focus. Like I said before, they are very familiar with the design, bid, build, general contracting. So to get them away from this, it's taking a lot of information and time to try to get them to move away. And a lot of them are having a hard time because they've been working with architecture firms in this design, bid, build scenario for quite a long time. So it's taking quite a bit of effort, and at this point, my challenge is doing that, obviously. So a resolution or help to this would be the government stepping in and saying, when you do get funding from us through, all these ways, it is an acceptable approach to use a construction manager, which it is in the policies. So just some assistance from the government, that perspective, or, some of their government departments would be extremely beneficial to me. And obviously a lot of other businesses which are trying to work directly with the communities when they do receive their funding. Now, the second one is, I think, more geared toward this conversation. So government departments, project management providers, and large businesses. So we understand there's a large push to procure goods and services through Aboriginal businesses. We're seeing lots of opportunities come up here and there. A lot of them are through PSAB and PSIB. So it looks like, government departments are starting to push it. National Defense, agriculture, a lot of those are putting it out now, which is nice to see. So I guess the main thing is, for project management providers, there are some, tools and recommendations we can make for procurement and moving forward with it. If you are willing to hear about it, some of the tools and procurement tools we can move forward with to help Aboriginal businesses land these jobs and actually have a good chance when competing with larger businesses, whether it be construction, supplies. I know some other gentlemen are on here with a little bit of different scope than I provide, but it pertains to all of us. So having a vendor of record and rotating through that, similar to I think how you do already on some of your work, and also a weighting and scoring system, because we do offer a lot of benefits when you do work with us, and sometimes based on dollar value, that isn't really conveyed. So there's obviously a lot of other tools and tactics and procurement strategies that can be explored, but that can be another conversation, right? So last slide. Just a few takeaways. So when the government or large businesses are doing work with Aboriginal businesses like myself and the other, everyone else that's on this call right now, there's kind of three main points that I like to tell everyone because I think it's really important. So when you do work with us, you're providing capacity to continue delivering beneficial services and supplies to communities, people, charities or causes, and other businesses doing work. So, when you hire us, you're helping us continue doing what we're doing. In addition, you're also providing, a line item on our portfolio, and which allows us to say we've done work for you. It provides backup for new clients when we're submitting RFPs and showing overall business capacity and resilience moving forward. So it really does help us outside of the initial monetary benefit during our contract. And all in all, it empowers business owners like myself and everyone else on this call, and obviously the hundreds of other Aboriginal businesses in Canada. So, and I guess the last thing is, and I speak to a lot of other First Nation businesses, on this call, everyone else we deal with on a regular basis because we do chat quite a bit through, we're kind of all connected through CCAB a bit. So from your side, BGIS and other large businesses, we do have a hard time communicating and trying to contact someone within your departments and whatnot and finding the right people to talk to. So reaching out to us is important because we're here to tell you about us, about our story and the services we can provide. And we have lots of excellent leadership, great technical skills, and sufficient capacity for most of your projects. So we're here to talk, and we're here to provide you information about us, right? So, and that's about it. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you listening to that.
Thanks a lot, Luke. And I know Wade is on the line. Wade, any questions from anybody here who would like to ask Luke any questions?
I just want to reinforce a lot of what Luke was kind of touching on there, the challenges that are faced and the need to have the communication forums like this so that we can collaborate. I know you guys have heard me say it a lot, but I really do believe, that this is a shared solution is what is going to accomplish this. So BGIS will continue to reach out and engage with the vendors and work with the client. But then we also need the vendors to kind of take on that role as well and lobby in ways that we can't and work together so that they're getting that message from multiple sides. And small little changes will eventually add up to bigger changes in the end. So that in doing this together, I think is going to be part of getting that change done in the future. But thanks so much for your honesty there, Luke.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luke. At this point, we'll move over to Esupply. Stephen, over to you if you want to get your computer ready. Perfect, we can see it.
Excellent. Great. So Julie, Wade, rest of the BGIS team, thanks for inviting me to participate in this discussion. I really think it's important that companies like yours, and all companies are having these discussions, because as I'm about to show, and I think as Luke has shown, the impacts that a company like yours, just through procurement, can have a really large impact, not only on the companies, but the benefits to Indigenous communities. So I'm founder and CEO of Esupply Canada. A bit about me, I think it's important I talk about my path to founding Esupply. I'm an Anishinaabe from Saugeen First Nation, which is on the southern shores of Lake Huron. It's about 2.5 hours northwest of Toronto. Those of you in southwestern Ontario, if you don't know my community, I'm sure you know Sauble Beach and have spent time there at some point. That's Saugeen's territory. That's where I come from. I spent some time on council from 2016, 2018, after I'd been out in the world and working for Indigenous peoples, both on a national and provincial level, wanted to bring that home to my community. And I looked at, what we were purchasing, where we were getting our stuff. I looked at development in our territory. Bruce Power, the world's largest nuclear power plant, is within our territory. They've got a multi-billion-dollar refurbishment project going on there. And I said, there's a lot of opportunity that we are missing as a community. Revenue is going outside. If I looked at my community as a business, we're a $30 million a year business. But because we have few businesses of our own, all that revenue goes outside of the community. And it was, and I was looking to conceive of a business that would give Indigenous communities an opportunity to begin purchasing off themselves, that they could capitalize on development in their territories through impact benefit agreements, through just general partnerships. And that's really what I think spurred what would become Esupply Canada. Some of the issues that I saw, as I mentioned, few Indigenous businesses. There are a number of communities that are economically successful. They have diverse businesses, but there are many, if not more, that have a limited economy. As a result, revenue flows out to the surrounding towns. Those towns and businesses, if they're like mine, they can be challenging. There can be racial tensions. There could be a number of issues that that make the relationship tenuous at best. And I found that those communities and businesses, they basically take the Indigenous spend for granted. They don't have to earn the business; they get the business simply because they exist. And as a counselor, I would often hear of people saying, I'm being followed around X store or Y store, and I've had the cops called. And I said, we're giving this money to these organizations, and they're really providing an unsafe shopping experience for our community members. There's got to be a better way. I also saw lost procurement opportunities. We just didn't have a vehicle to easily capitalize on those development opportunities. A lot of businesses take time to grow and scale. Expertise, are sometimes lacking. There's, within my community, within a number of communities, there's a brain drain. Folks go to school and then wind up staying in urban areas. So, the knowledge in many instances is not there. And then industry and government is also looking to partner with Indigenous communities, Indigenous businesses. But, there are very few, I think, resources for companies like BGIS to turn to outside of the procurement strategy for Aboriginal business, CCAB. Where do folks turn? So those were really the problems that I set out to seek with Esupply Canada. So Esupply Canada, we're an online distributor, office, janitorial, industrial supplies. I like to say that we've got you covered from the front office to the or the band office to the job site and everywhere in between. We carry over 1 million products from over 1,000 leading manufacturers. We are the lowest hanging fruit. If you want to engage with Indigenous companies, if you want to support Indigenous companies, we've set it up. I've created a model where there's no easy way. Office supplies, janitorial, industrial supplies. We also have access to PPE through our industrial supply chains. That really allowed us to support Indigenous communities, support Ontarians, support Indigenous communities when the pandemic hits, because we had access to those supply chains. And I'll show you in a couple of minutes, how we were able to support Indigenous communities. I run a drop ship model, which allows me to compete with the big box retailers. I operate in a space where being Indigenous doesn't cut it. I need to compete on price. I need to be competitive. I need to provide just-in-time delivery. A dropship model does that. I source direct from manufacturers, national wholesalers. I don't have the capital requirements, and because of that, I'm able to compete on price. And some of the contracts that I've won with BGIS, I think, reinforce that. Just as a value add to our customers, we also offer online training. Over 1,400 different courses, everything from Aboriginal awareness to fall safety, you name it. What did I look like before? And let's talk about the impact that working with BGIS has had. Before it was what I call the Steve show. Like many entrepreneurs out there, I was building this company. I did everything from sales, responding to RFPs, customer service, returns, sourcing product, finding new suppliers, finance, as well as communications and marketing. There were long days. They continue to be long days, but at least now I have additional capacity to be able to grow and scale. So all that's to say is, as an Indigenous business owner, just as a business owner in general, there's a lot involved. And through our partnership, through the work that we've done together, which actually goes back to, I think, August 2020 is really when Wade reached out to me. I think he turned to the CCAB list, looking across a number of business opportunities, came across Esupply. He called me up, we had a chat. I'd had several of those chats, with a number of companies, and figured, well, there's another chat. It's another website that I'm just going to languish on. Nothing will ever actually come of it. And I basically made Wade known about that. And true to his word, he said, I will follow up with you. And true enough, in October, he followed up and we're ready to present to some folks and discuss next steps. In quick succession, that led to Esupply being invited to bid on about 4 contracts between December and I think February of 2020, 2021, of which we won 3. And then it was really about fulfilling those orders. We work with a number of great property managers, within across a number of regions, and they really pushed us, which I respect. We needed to be able to deliver on time. I mean, you have requirements, funding requirements you have to meet from your funders. We wanted to prove that we could do it. And from that we were able to get the bulk of a number of contracts on time. Which was phenomenal. Since then, we've been invited, won a number of low value acquisitions, continue to bid on tenders, and we focus on building the relationships by bringing our story to talks like this and meeting a number of suppliers, buyers. And I've reached out to Wade, the Canadian Association of Economic Development Officers, about putting in a presentation, the pillars that BGIS is doing and our story, to really be able to share, some of the impacts and use this relationship to showcase to other entities that are out there and are looking for a way to start. Because I think the work that BGIS has done has been, really remarkable in a short period of time. Some of the products and services we've supplied, I mean, everything from filters to, tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. So, our scope, our breadth, what we're able to provide, is considerable. Through your support and through support of everyone else, Esupply has a mandate to give back. Whether you know it or not, 1% of your spend goes to the Esupply Future Leaders Development Fund. I think like many Indigenous businesses, we all have a mandate to give back to the communities, from which we come, the communities that support us. That fund supports Indigenous students pursuing post-secondary education in the areas of business, economics, law, as well as the trades. So again, when you purchase from Esupply, you're supporting that fund. Here's a picture. We were able to donate our first $25,000 to the Chippewas of Nawash this past December. My child, the little person in the front, Pearl, she was able to be there. And that in part is from companies like yours and all companies that have made Esupply Canada supplier of choice. We also fund supports for Indigenous entrepreneurs, and our website is really a marketplace. It's growing, it's evolving, and our website gives Indigenous manufacturers the opportunity to sell their products to a wider audience. So really our mandate is social, even though we are a business. Some of the ways that we give back, as I mentioned at the beginning, we when the pandemic hit, what does an office, janitorial, and industrial supplier do when the world shuts down, right? It's not a good place to be for a business like this. But again, being able to pivot, looking at our supply chains, being resilient, being lean, allowed us to do what maybe other companies couldn't and actually survive the pandemic. We were able to provide at-cost office supplies starting within my territory, folks at Bruce Power, folks within the Bruce County region, folks within Saugeen. That was a number of folks took us up on that, so we expanded that to Indigenous workers, across Ontario. It's a way to say, thank you for keeping the lights on within your communities, even though you're working from home. And then we work with a number of Indigenous communities as well as governments to help their reopening efforts. What does the organization look like now? Well, I've managed to bring on 4 additional people, and largely this has been a result of the work that we have done together. So reinvesting those profits back into the community, helping to scale, helping to build. And within the next 9 to 12 months, we'll have an additional 7 people on as we begin to execute our franchise structure. Which is how we support Indigenous communities moving forward. I've really proven the concept, but this is about giving back to Indigenous communities. This is about creating a vehicle that they can capitalize on. Again, a vehicle where they can partner with developers in their territory, with local BGIS offices. I think the opportunities are endless through what would be a franchise model. We're anticipating up to 225 locations, basically across Canada, solely focused on Indigenous ownership. I do have another model. I won't go into that because we're focused on Indigenous here. It's a low barrier to entry. This is not like creating, opening up a Tim Hortons where you need to be, basically 2 million liquid. Our barrier to entry is incredibly low, complete training system. Revenue stays within the community, and they're able to capitalize on impact benefit agreements and as well as development within their territories. And just briefly, in terms of Indigenous engagement, moving forward, I think you guys have done some phenomenal work as a company, with the leadership and with the work of Wade, Julie, and the rest of the team. But just moving forward, Indigenous peoples are not an interest group. Indigenous peoples are rights holders. Indigenous, need to engage people along the way, ensuring that Indigenous peoples are at the table, not doing it beforehand and then asking Indigenous peoples to rubber stamp whatever it might be, a policy, a new RFP design, whatever it might be. Engaging peoples, at the beginning is paramount. You've got an Indigenous Relations Office. Not entirely sure what the title is, but a number of organizations have these offices, and it's paramount that office is fully resourced. Ensuring that either the staff is there, support staff is there, the budget is there. One person can do a lot, but one person cannot do it all. And I've seen several organizations that hire one individual and expect them to do it all. And that's a recipe for success. Need to invest in those offices, need to invest in those positions, and invest in those people. Engage your current suppliers around what works and what doesn't. Luke, myself, my other colleague on the call here today, engage us. We're working with you. What is working? What doesn't? How can things change? Flexible payment terms. Access to capital is a challenge for a lot of Indigenous peoples. Maybe they don't unable to access equity to support to start the business. They might not have a home that they can use as collateral. So 60, 90-day payment terms can be a significant barrier for a lot of Indigenous businesses. Develop KPIs, key performance indicators, and publicly report on them. Shine a light on what it is that you're doing. Hold your own selves accountable, but show other organizations, the great work that you're doing as well. Undertake a policy audit to ensure there are no systemic barriers. Compel suppliers to hit that 5% Indigenous procurement spend. Award points for Indigenous partnerships. Learn from others. Folks like Syncrude or people that operate, in Indigenous territories all the time. They may have been doing it a lot longer. Reach out to your colleagues over there, engage them. What are they doing? What works? What doesn't? And finally, engagement, it's not an end goal. It's a continuous process of learning to ensure the relationships are there and there are mutually beneficial outcomes. So with that, thanks for the opportunity, and I'll pass it back to you, Julie.
Thank you, Stephen. Great story. And Wade, any comments to add before we move to Teahorse?
Just want to re-echo the need to really incorporate the supply of goods and materials. This was the reason I had reached out to Stephen and some other Indigenous suppliers for this very reason, that it's it really is the low-hanging fruit when it comes to getting the supply chain started. There's a lower threshold when it comes to barriers to become one of those vendors. And the product offering it's vast. It's quite incredible, actually, what they have to offer, and they're able to ship across the entire country. So it's not limited to Ontario because he's in Ontario. He can ship anywhere within, and There's a number of the GMs that will definitely vouch for the service level that he provides. It's not a matter of you place an order and he's not there to support it. He stands behind it from beginning to end. So this just shows that Indigenous vendors. It really needs to be. I'm working towards the vendors that happen to be Indigenous. Is really what we're trying to get to here. That they're business people that happen to be Indigenous that are providing the service, but. As I said to both Luke and to Stephen, we need to really get more of these Indigenous champions and applaud their efforts and work together on this. But thanks again, Stephen, for your contribution today.
Sure. And Stephen, before we go to Teahorse, you need to buy any tea. So,
always, we are tea drinkers.
There you go. So I hope you enjoy the next presentation. I put my sales hat on. Any questions for Steve? I know we have a lot of comments. A lot of our team members have used your company and are very happy with the services. So again, thank you very much. So Denise and Marc, over to you to Teahorse. Do you want me to show the video first?
Did you get the presentation I sent you? I sent you a deck.
Oh, hold on. I saw that and I thought it was the video.
Then do the video then while you're pulling that up, if you like.
Okay, I will do that. I hope you don't mind. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay, and I gotta find the video. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see it. Oh, you know what? I have to share with sound. Sorry, hold on.
Is an Indigenous woman-owned agri-food and tea company.
Can everybody hear that? Okay,
Yes.
I'll just go back to the beginning.
Think outside the teapot.
Can't hear it anymore, Julie.
Indigenous woman-owned agri-food and tea company.
Can you hear it now?
Located on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples
Good.
in northwestern Ontario. Established in 2017 by Denise Atkinson, Anishinaabe Kwe, from Red Rock First Nation, and her partner Marc H. Bohemier. Teahorse is a certified Aboriginal business with the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business. With its proprietary roasting process, Teahorse has created and produces an industry-first Monomin and tea blend. Our Monomin cha, wild rice tea, combines the sweet grassy notes of green tea with the aroma and nutty characteristics of Monomin.
Hi, Julie. It froze. The video froze.
Focused on health, wellness, and the restorative properties contained in tea, herbs, and ancient grains like
Okay, what I'll
Monomin.
do is
We use natural,
I've
uncultivated
been having
Monomin
technical
in our
difficulties
blends
with
that
my
we
computer.
direct source and personally custom
So I'll share the
process
video with everyone else if that's
in
okay
Northwestern Ontario and northern
after the
Manitoba.
fact, but I do have the video. Can you still see it running now?
Yeah, it's running.
Since our company's inception, we have engaged and consulted with Indigenous knowledge keepers and harvesters of traditional plants and non-timber forest products for guidance to ensure ethical practice and to avoid unnecessary harm to sensitive sites and ecosystems. Find us at teahorse.ca. Miigwech.
Thank you very much. And if anybody has not tasted your tea, I highly recommend you put some money towards your own personal purchasing power and buy some tea. The wild rice tea is exceptional. It's probably one of my favorite. I have never seen anything similar or taste as good with that really nutty flavor. So I am going to start to share the presentation. So just give me 1 second. I do have it up. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Yes. Can you put it in slideshow mode, please?
Okay, and it's Google Play, so it's like, okay, hold on. I'm not sure if I know how to do that.
That's okay.
It's working.
That's good.
Okay, sorry about that.
Thank you, Julie and BGIS, for inviting us to the Indigenous Marketplace. We really appreciate it. And I'm glad you enjoy our tea. We enjoy making it too. So Teahorse is an Indigenous company. I'm the primary owner or the majority owner, and with my partner, Marc Bohemier.
You didn't say your name.
Oh, sorry. My name is Denise Atkinson. The next slide, please. So it was established in 2017. We're an artisanal tea company located on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in northwestern Ontario. I'm a part of the Red Rock First Nation, just on top of Lake Superior. Next. So we've developed a proprietary roasting process, and we've developed an industry first selection of wild rice and green tea blends. Our Monomin cha was inspired by the Japanese genmai cha, or brown rice tea.
So Monomin, as I've learned, is Ojibwe for wild rice, and cha in the Asian world means tea. So what we're trying to do from the very beginning of our company, when we started, was like combine the knowledge of different cultures, the skills of different cultures. So by combining the two words, Monomin and cha, we're actually joining East and West, the Eastern world and the Western world. So that's how we came up with that idea. Even our logo, the way we designed our logo was all about, the four directions, the idea that tea has really traveled all over the world, and that by combining it with wild rice, we're bringing into the tea industry as well as the wild industry something completely unique and very Indigenous. And that's part of what we've learned in our relationship within the people in the tea industry, is that Indigenous peoples around the world have been involved with tea for almost basically time immemorial. Teas in Yunnan, China have been, there's trees that are 1,200 years old that are being taken care of by subcultures. We look at China or Russia as like one big melting pot of, Chinese or Russian people, but really there's all these Indigenous groups and that was a real inspiration for Denise and I to look further into the tea world. So that's really how a lot of this came around. And with wild rice being a staple food for people of the boreal forest, especially around the Great Lakes and into northern Saskatchewan, Manitoba, northern Ontario, and into the northern U.S. states like Michigan and Minnesota, it's been around for millennia, really from time immemorial. And so by combining an ancient grain with an ancient leaf, we've really, we think we hit on something very unique.
So when you saw the video we presented, Marc and I traveled to northern Manitoba this fall and participated in a wild rice harvest. So for us, traceability is very important. So right from the water, you can see Marc in the video was actually helping gather the rice, to the processing, to everything. We're part of it all.
Yeah, and even our right now we're blending it with two types of Japanese green tea, a roasted green tea called hojicha, and a bancha, or even sometimes a sencha green tea from Japan, and we source that directly through a supplier whose brother is involved in the tea farming and tea industry in Japan. So we're really concerned, like a lot of companies are, about traceability of products and ensuring the quality is at a really high level. So yeah, so that's really another aspect of what we like to do. I think what was shown on the very first slide, the intro slide, and at the beginning of our video, is that Denise came up with a great kind of tagline, think outside the teapot. We had a bricks and mortar tea shop for about a year, from 2018 to 2019. And what we found is a lot of people saw tea as, you know, like a something like granny. Oh, a tea granny, and we'd heard that expression a lot. And what we're learning from the Indigenous tea harvesters around the world and Indigenous people in general, you know, teas come from the outside. They're drank in the outside. And when you think of, you know, some of the stories and like that I've heard when I traveled up along the James Bay coast, or when Denise talks about her family, tea was always a central part of that. And tea, you know, we use the word tea to describe like any sort of leaf or dried root and mix it with boiling water. But really, tea is actually one plant. It's a Camellia sinensis plant coming out of China and into India. But what we're doing is trying to show people that, you know, these teas, whether they're cedar tea, balsam tea, if it's wild rice tea, what we're doing is it's all about connecting people and connecting people to the land. And with ours, again, our emphasis on cultural knowledge, so much of what we want to do is put the word Monomin front and center, and try to stay away from the word wild rice, the two words wild rice, because really Monomin is not rice. It might be wild, but it's certainly not rice. So we really focus on that idea of knowledge transfer, and bringing people together around simple things. It's as easy as boiling water and some type of leaf or a grain. And that's how this idea of togetherness and, you know, bringing ourselves closer together is really an important part of what we do. Mm-hmm. And if you show the next slide, it's just a foot of like photos of what our wild rice teas look like. We also sell Monomin abo, which is just the roasted wild rice as a tisane. So we were again inspired by the Asian Indigenous people in Korea, in Thailand, Japan, and parts of China and Asia, where they roast grains. The most predominant grain is barley. So they have like buricha in Korea, or they call it mugicha in Japan. So we took that inspiration from those indigenous peoples and came up with a proprietary way of roasting our wild rice. And that's what we do.
So right now we offer the 3 flavors: Monomin cha, our original, with the roasted wild rice, and bancha green tea. So it's very green tea tasting. Our Monomin cha dark is blended with the hoji cha, roasted green tea, and then again the Monomin abo. But recently, the last 6 months or so, we've been working on this special project with a very large retail producer, a retailer in Canada, and we are co-developing, co-branding a specific tea flavor, and we are contributing our roasted wild rice to this blend. It should be released because of supply chain issues and transportation issues with all the storms and COVID. It was supposed to be released in February, but it'll likely be March or April, and we will be in stores across Canada.
So that presented us with a major challenge. When we were approached by this large company, the most I could roast at a time was 60 grams. And their first order for a roasted wild rice, we got months later, but it was 400 kilos. So we're like, wow. So we knew it was going to be high. So we spent the better part of 4 or 5 months trying to scale up. And we actually couldn't really, like, we got up to about 1 kilo, but we realized, one of the challenges of a small business being approached by a large business is like, it was like Dragon's Den in reverse. The dragons came to us and we're like, what do we do? So because we're pretty confident in saying, well, we'll get it done. So we've been working with a roaster fabricator and a roast master in Edmonton. We've been to Edmonton 3 times over about 3 months. Then we ended up meeting a large company who works with the likes of like Nestle to help us with the large order of roasting. They couldn't quite capture our exact flavor, but what they did is they showed us, we've learned a lot with this venture or engagement from this large company, is that, there are so many, we knew there was a lot of rules and regulations with manufacturing, and so much is based, especially in the food industry, on, you know, liability and making sure, like, you don't want a bolt in your tea or a nail or something. So, you know, magnets and metal detection of, you know, of you know, what could possibly land in a bag of food is a huge thing. So with these large companies, their standards are so high. It's really, you know, encouraged us, or, you know, pushed us to learn a lot more about that. So instead of just, you know, like there's a really good saying, you hear it more and more in business, don't work harder, work smarter. So with this challenge, we had to realize that despite months of effort in trying to scale up our production, we had to say we just couldn't do it at this time. We couldn't. There's really no technology developed that actually can do what we do. There's no roaster made to do wild rice like we roast it. And it became challenging. I mean, when we worked with the roaster fabricator in Edmonton, he said it, this is really hard to replicate. The company we went with to do the roasting or toasting, they've been working with wild rice for over 27 years, like roasting it, toasting it. They couldn't achieve the flavor profile we can achieve. So what we're faced with now is, you know, we needed to say to ourselves, we need to fulfill the order. We do well with this large company. It's gonna translate into more opportunities for us. Our roasting will come. Our perfection of a larger batch roaster will come, and we're still working on that. But right now we have to make the realization that we have to fulfill the order, and subsequent orders will come. We worked with it's a food development center in Saskatoon that really helped us out. They helped us make the connections. And I think for us, again, humility, it's one of the 7 sacred teachings. So we have to realize, you know, we're brave and we have courage, like one of the other you know, teachings, but the real teaching was humility, and to know when we had to say, okay, we're passing the ball to.
We had to ask for help.
Yeah, we had to ask for help, and we had to, you know, accept that. And we got great counseling from some excellent people in the business world at the Food Development Center in this large company. And they said, you do not want to burn out. Like Stephen said in his presentation, Stephen did this, Stephen does that. Well, Denise and I do that. Denise handles all the admin, all the social media. I'm more the production and operations. But so we're trading off. All summer long, it was operations all summer long, trying to figure out how to roast better. And now it's really about like making sure we run as smooth as we can, despite all the challenges of COVID, flooding in BC. We're having it blended in British Columbia. A lot of what we did by hand is now we've had to pass the ball on to larger companies because we know they're going to do a great job, and we're learning a lot from them and a lot of the challenges around trying to grow.
Okay, next slide, please. So engaging and empowering Indigenous harvesters and communities. We direct source from harvesters and processors, many of which are Indigenous. So we go to Indigenous harvesters first. That's our main interest. And then we will go on to other companies when we require more product. So yeah. Yeah,
and I think what the other 2 presenters also focused on, it's a challenge at times to find Indigenous harvesters or Indigenous peoples that are involved in business or industry, like the other suppliers or providers of services mentioned. So that's a big challenge for us. We had a really good supplier, Indigenous couple out of Northwestern Ontario. The harvests have been terrible for the last 2 years. So they couldn't supply us. But luckily, when we went to northern Manitoba, one of the harvesters, the guy running the airboat in the video, he's from a local reserve, and we're able to work with him, and we got our wild rice from him. And yeah, but we're still branching out and looking for more suppliers in Saskatchewan right now as well. So yeah, okay. So it's that's pretty much what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. And yeah, miigwech. Thank you.
Miigwech, thank you very much. any questions for Denise and Marc? And I have to say, I love your wild rice tisane, the caffeine-free one. That's the one I like the most. But and they have a whole selection of other teas. So if you're, go to their website, look at it. When you think about your next tea purchase, think about supporting an Indigenous company. I will do the plug right now. So, and help another Indigenous company grow. Wade, any comments to add?
No, just fascinated by what I heard. I think I learned more about tea in the last half hour than I have my entire life. So I kind of want to cup of tea. But no, I'm thrilled about this, and this is just again another example of the ability that we have here at BGIS to focus on some of these consumer related products. Not that they can't supply other areas. But there's a number of vendors out there that aren't just, for within BGIS's procurement model. I think that BGIS as an organization has an opportunity here to really support some of these businesses on their consumer lines as well. And I'm sure that, Stephen also has some consumer-based products. So this is something that, we can look at and we can promote amongst ourselves. And, it was a thought that we had at the communications committee meeting the one time with regards to these vendors as we were doing our screenings, even though they didn't couldn't necessarily be directly related to consumer or to commercial, there was an opportunity at the consumer level, and that's where this kind of got discussed, and some other products got thrown out there as well. So I'm just glad to see that we've had a chance to hear from one of these vendors, and I look forward to hearing from others in the future, as well as hearing about the continued success of this particular vendor. Thanks.
So we have a couple minutes left. Any other questions for any of the presenters? Well, Miigwech, Vanessa's going to try and get me to pronounce it correctly. Miigwech, thank you very much for your time today. For all of you, Luke and Stephen, Denise and Marc, thank you so much for your time. I hope this is the next step in, helping you build your business. If there's anything we can do for you, you just let us know, and we'll be there for you, whether it's to make another connection. If you know other Indigenous businesses that are looking to be introduced, don't be shy and let us know, and make those connections. We do plan on doing another one of these, and actually, Luke, I'm thinking of the cleaning company you introduced us to, and we'll be doing another one of these hopefully in the next couple of months as we build our Indigenous marketplace. So I really appreciate the time, and thank you for taking the time to share your story. Wade, anything else before we wrap up?
Okay. Sorry, I had myself on mute again there. No, just again, I just want to reiterate the the great forum that is provided, and thank you for putting this together and really giving the vendors a chance to showcase and speak for themselves. I think it's really important to hear from these vendors and understand their journey and the challenges that it takes to get to where they are. It just didn't happen overnight. So, whenever we can, we want to applaud these efforts and, of course, support them in any ways that we can. So happy to be here. I'm happy to really see that, we are inching in the right direction. And this is just another a great means by which we can continue to support these vendors. Thanks.
Miigwech.
And thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.